What's going on, guys? Jacob Ober here, coming to you with my thoughts on the MLB free agency situation for the Milwaukee Brewers right now. And as of today, Mike Moustakas was signed by the Cincinnati Reds for 4 years, $64 million. That makes the fourth guy who I thought the Brewers were going to at least attempt to bring back to leave or to have their option declined. We all know Thames was the first one. They declined his option. And when that happened, I was like, whoa, what are you doing? His production was excellent at third base. He was the perfect guy in that situation. He had an OPS over 850. He's always been reliable, dependable. They let him go. Then Grandal got signed, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I kind of expected that. I mean, he was of Moustakas and Grandal, he was the more likely to go because he had more value on the market. And then you had Pomeranz go as well. I think those both actually happened on the same day. It's like, oh, wow, okay, so we're definitely bringing Moustakas back, right? And then today, Moustakas leaves. So, what do I make of all this? First of all, I just want to say, everyone remember, before you comment on this video and say the Brewers are cheap, they're done, they're never going to do anything, they're not going in for a World Series, they're horrible, terrible management. It's December 2nd. It is hardly even begun. The offseason has hardly even begun. We're not even like a quarter of the way into it yet. So just remember that before you say that. Second of all, what I think the Brewers are doing with this, and I don't know if I disagree or agree with it, but I understand the logic behind it of what the Brewers I think they're trying to do. The Brewers are going after a big-name free agent. That's why they're saving up this money. That's why they're not signing guys who you'd think would be obvious choices to bring back. And as small-market baseball fans, we're always conditioned, to try and bring back the guys that we had the year before to keep the core intact. David Stearns is almost doing like a retooling of sorts, I think, this year. He's sacrificing those positions because he believes that I think one of these elite guys is going to solidify what the Brewers want to do. It's going to solidify, a core 3 to 5 players for the Brewers, and that's what's going to get them over the hump. And I think he's specifically identifying the pitching rotation. He wants to have elite guys in the rotation. And if you look back at World Series past, the last few years, the teams with the most elite rotations are always the ones that get the furthest. The Brewers were kind of an exception back in 2018. They almost made it to the World Series on their bullpen alone. I mean, they didn't have much starting pitching to think of, or to make of, They had Jhoulys Chacin starting Game 7, who was a really good pitcher for the most part for the Brewers, but, I mean, it's still Jhoulys Chacin. Like, he's not a top-end starter or anything like that. And, the Brewers kind of got shelled in that game, and that was it. And then they kind of went in back on the offensive end again last offseason, I should say, and they only got to the wild card. So, I mean, the last two offseasons, the Brewers went in on offense to try and bolster their starting lineup. They thought they could get there on their offense and their bullpen, and they weren't able to. So what are they doing now? I think they're trying to get their rotation as good as possible, and they're going to ride and die with their offense as it is right now. I don't foresee too many offensive moves for the Brewers. I think for the most part, they're going to go with what they have. They're going to keep Gamble. They're going to have Braun, Kane, Yelich in the outfield like they did last year. They're going to have Sean Pena at third base and at catcher. And, those guys, they're betting on them. They're betting that they're going to have bounce-back years. And we remember how good these guys were back in 2017 when the Brewers fielded a team that almost made the playoffs, starting with Travis Shaw as probably their best player that year, too. So they're betting on Shaw to be a lot better this year. And honestly, I would expect him to be much better. He's not going to hit 165 again. He's not going to be that player again. I almost guarantee it. And then Manny Pena, yeah, his offensive peak was probably 2017. But his defensive prowess is, one of the best. He's one of the best defensive catchers in the league. He's easily a Gold Glove, type catcher behind the plate. So they're going with that. They're going to sacrifice offense at that area or those areas. They're going with Arcia Urias at short and whoever at first base. I have no idea what they're going to do at first base right now, but they're sacrificing those areas with the hope that those guys can man the position good enough to get an elite player in the rotation, I believe. That's what I believe they're doing, And it could be anybody. It could be Garrett Cole, it could be Steven Strasburg, it could be anybody, But that's what I think the Brewers are doing right now. And I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with it, but I certainly understand the logic behind it when you look at the last couple of seasons and what has had the most success to getting to the World Series and winning the World Series. It's always the starting rotation. It's always your pitching. Pitching wins championships the same way that defense wins championships in the NFL. So that's what I think that's what I think David Stearns is doing this offseason, and certainly, they've still got a lot of extremely good core players. They have Christian Yelich, obviously. They have Josh Hader. They have Brandon Woodruff. They have Keston Hiura. They've got, and Lorenzo Cain as well, if you want to include him. But those are more on the younger side, those guys. But I think they're planning on making moves to, add another guy to that core and hoping that the rest of the guys are able to do good enough around them. And to be honest, like I said, I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with it, but I understand the logic behind it, and I'm certainly not saying that this is the Brewers just punting on the season or, ruining any chance they ever had of getting back to the World Series, So those are my thoughts, though. That's my thoughts on what the Brewers have done so far this offseason, and like I said, it's December 2nd, guys. It's not over, the offseason. There's obviously something happening here. David Stearns wouldn't let all of these guys go for nothing. Like, there's got to be something, there just has to be something. So anyways, guys, so thanks for watching. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to watch this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below. What do you think of the Brewers offseason so far? Do you think they're going to go all in on one of these elite level free agents? Leave your comment in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.